Hi everyone, I'm Connor Callahan, and for my research report I did changes in family form, and I was looking at the adolescent outcomes of children raised by gay and lesbian families and how these families differ. A little bit about me. I go to the University of Minnesota. I'm a family social science major. So as a family social science major, I have a particular interest in families and the way in which they interact and the health of these families. And what we really do is kind of create programs and ways for these families to improve. But first what we need to do is to look at the health of the families. So a little bit of background. Same-sex marriage is currently legal in 17 states. 6 of these through court decisions, 8 through the state legislature, like it is here in Minnesota, and 3 by popular vote. One of the reasons most often cited for opposition to same-sex marriage is the effect that this would have on the children. So in the United States, I think it's really important to look at whether or not these facts are, or these ideas are backed up by the facts. So the research questions I asked were, how do same-sex relationships differ from heterosexual relationships? And do children raised by homosexual individuals have more problems than children raised by heterosexual individuals? So my hypothesis was that generally these homosexual relationships will be the same as heterosexual relationships in their interactions with each other. And then I thought that children raised by homosexuals will have no difference in the amount of problems they face, eventual outcomes, than children raised by heterosexual parents. So the methods that I used were, I did a literature review. I looked at 7 different articles. Each of the article was a peer-reviewed scholarly source and printed in a very reputable journal. And then for my empirical source, I interviewed an expert in the field of child development here at the University of Minnesota. So for a little bit of context, you really have to define who you're looking at. So sexual orientation has many components. There's attraction, behavior, and identity. But for this, we would mostly be looking at identity and adults, because those are the people most likely to enter into a long-term same-sex relationship and want to have children. So according to this research, it's about 3% of the total US population. So for my results, I wanted, how did the relationships differ? Because both partners are of the same sex, there aren't the typical gender roles that do happen in heterosexual relationships. So it's a more egalitarian relationship. There tends to be an equal sharing of housework and childcare if there are children. And both partners usually place more of an emphasis on equality in the relationship. And then how are they the same? Is that statistically they're just as likely to remain in their committed relationship and want a committed relationship, and they often want to be parents. So I think another cultural idea that we hold is that individuals who are interested in same-sex relationships are less likely to stay in these committed relationships, but the research says that that's not true. So the results for the child outcomes, some of the variables that were used to measure were internalizing and externalizing behavior. Do you guys know what okay. So internalizing behavior and externalizing behavior really include a lot of these things, but I thought it was important to have the umbrella terms as well. Internalizing behavior is any type of behavior that would be self-destructive. So it could be poor eating habits, a sense of depression. It could be cutting, a range of things. And externalizing behavior is behavior that is enacted towards someone else. So it could be fighting at school or getting into a lot of arguments. So also the research looked at academic performance, what type of relationships these children enter in romantically, their attachment to their parent figure, and the prevalence of self-destructive behavior, which would fall in internalizing behavior. All but one of the studies found that there was no significant difference between a parent's sexual orientation or family makeup and the child outcomes. And the outcomes is based more on family function than on form, which means that it doesn't matter like if it's a single parent, two parents, gay parent, straight parent. What matters is the connection that you have with the child and whether or not it's a safe relationship. A lot of the other factors that they looked at besides the sexuality of the parent that did have an effect on the child outcome were depression or like drug use, and those things did have a large impact on the outcomes of children. Some of the limitations of this research are that there were generally small sample sizes. Most of this data wasn't longitudinal, so there's no ability to prove causation. The reports relied heavily on self-reporting, so like there could be some bias in that, and some studies were unrepresentative of the total population. The one report that did find that there was an effect on same-sex, or the outcomes of children, was looking at families who had divorced and one of the parent entered a same-sex relationship, so it's not really the same as like if we were thinking of a same-sex family. There's a lot of misinformation, and I think that it's really important for us to look at the facts when we're making policy decisions or just thinking about it as a culture. So, any questions? Yes?
Oh. Me or trying? Me? Okay.
You first.
Okay, this is Rachel. Maybe I missed it, but did you mention that you also did a survey?
I didn't do a survey, I did an interview with a professor here. She specializes in child development.
Did those results line up with the results you talked about?
Yeah, what she really focused on was function over form, so the health of the relationship.
Okay.
This is Jane. You have, like you said, like 40% of Americans think the same-sex marriage is like negative.
Would oppose same-sex marriage.
Negative. So how the children think like when their friends say that okay, you don't have a dad or you don't have a mother, so I think it should be better effect on the children. And you said it should be the same for both families.
I'm kind of confused by the question.
I mean, like, I think the same-sex family should be better effect on the children.
You think it has a better effect on the children?
It's mean like negative effect on the children. It's not like.
Do you mean like rather than just having one parent? I don't know. What's your question?
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's important to like look at what's published by academic sources and really base our opinions off of that. Outside of the facts, there's also religious beliefs that people hold that they need to take into account for themselves, but I think generally policy should be based off of facts.
I have a question. This is Beth. Did you find any like stats on like how many, what's the frequency of children who are raised in a homosexual family dynamic, like they turned out to be homosexual?
It's actually really low.
Oh, okay.
Especially, it's higher in families that the children are conceived in a heterosexual relationship and then
Okay.
one of the parent leaves for a same-sex relationship,
Oh.
but it's no higher than like the general population.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Thank you.